Hi, in this video, I'm going to walk you through this reactive consumer producer Kafka-sidecar demo application. First thing first, we need to start the Confluence platform locally. I'm using Docker Compose from Kafka-sidecar repository. So current screen is running Docker Compose of Kafka platform. So you can see we have Control Center, KSQL DB, all the components there. If we want to start it, we can take a look at this folder. This is in network NT Kafka-sidecar. You can see we have a Docker Compose file here. This is for Linux, and if you want to start, you can just say Docker Compose up. That's it. That will start the Kafka Confluence platform. So once we have the Confluence platform started, we can create the topics for our demo application. In order to create topics, we're gonna use the Confluence platform UI to do this. So this is the UI for the Confluence platform. And if you click this, you can see this is the cluster we are using, and local cluster. From here, we need to create two topics. One topic is called, we got the topic created already, I think. Yeah, let's make this the bigger screen. Yeah, one is called transform the account. This is the target topic, and the other one is called the original account. So if you look at the original account, we have the schema defined just like this. The value schema, we have account number, first name, last name. That's the schema defined for the value. If we go to the other topic, transform the account, you can see we have schema defined this way. We still have account number, first name, last name, and also we have a full name here. The full name is, we will do the transformation to concatenate the first name and the last name together to create the full name when we reproduce into this target topic. Also, normally you should create an audit topic as well as a dead letter topic. But if you don't have those topics created, the Kafka-sidecar will automatically create those topics. So once we have the topic created already, let's start both Kafka-sidecar and the backend application together in the IDE. I'm using IDE so that we can basically debug within the IDE to see what's the interaction between two applications. This is the IDE for the Kafka-sidecar. You can see this is the Kafka-sidecar is from network-NT Kafka-sidecar repository. And if I start it, you can see it's trying to connect to the backend, but that backend doesn't exist. So it keeps retrying. Also, I want to mention is this: when you start this Kafka-sidecar, you need to specify the local. Let's stop the server for now. You need to specify the local configuration using this -d left4j config dir equal to config /react consumer producer. So this is the folder in the config directory. So within this folder, we have some configuration for this particular demo. Let's walk through the configuration. The most important file actually this is the one, values.yaml. So we have values.yaml, so we can define the backend API host. It's 844.4, and also what's the topic for the consumer, and also for what's for producer, what's the sidecar audit topics, things like that. Also, we have this 9443 as HTTP port. So we start HTTP only because eventually this will be used as a sidecar. We also have producer started. We have reactive consumer started. We have audit producer started. So those are the components we config for this particular instance of sidecar. So let's get it started. Now we have sidecar started, and it's trying to communicate with backend. Backend doesn't exist. That's why it's trying to retry. Let's put the backend application here. So the backend application, this is the log. And the backend application is in this repository. It's called netrunty. Let example for the Kafka-sidecar / reactive consumer producer. Right now, the application is in the master branch. After the release, it should be in the release branch as well. But if you cannot find this application, just switch to the master branch. So let's get this application started. Now we have the application started, listening to 8444. If we look at the Kafka-sidecar right now, you will see the sidecar stops doing the retry because the sidecar has already communicated with the backend API, and the backend API indicates itself is healthy. So both of them right now is in the communication status. Because we don't have any records, unconsumed records in that original.account topic. So there's no activity between those two applications. Now let's produce something to the topic. So I'm gonna use Postman. So this is very visual. You can see what has been produced. This is a request I'm trying to do. I'm trying to produce this to Kafka-sidecar. Kafka-sidecar using 9443 producers / original.account. This is the topic name. This is the body. And supposedly, like when we produce something, like we should get this response. So for each record, what's the partition, what's the offset, and also the value schema ID, as well as the status, overall status. So I'm gonna produce this. So we can see the interaction between both servers. So let's send. So you can see we've produced a new record. This offset 18, 19, and 20. I think we got some record already there. So let's take a look at the Kafka-sidecar. The log in the console. So this is the log on the Kafka-sidecar. So basically, it's received the produced records produced to Kafka. At the same time, after the records produced to Kafka, the consumers, reactive consumer, consumes those records and send to the backend. The backend process it, do the transformation, and then send back the result records back to the Kafka-sidecar to produce into the transform the topic. So this is the process. This is the logs in the Kafka-sidecar. And if you look at the log in the backend API, this is the one from backend API. So when the backend API starts, it's just like this. And this is how the backend API receives the records and output all the values of the records, and also try to reproduce that back to the back to the Kafka-sidecar. So that's producing done 103 milliseconds, and batch size is 3. So this is how we do the producing. Let's put both in debug mode so that we can see the interaction much more in detail. Let's first say we create a breakpoint on the producer. So this is a producer handler. let's set breakpoint here. You can debug into it once you have breakpoint. So let's set a breakpoint here. How this is the producer, and also let's say the consumer. We want to set up a breakpoint here. Once we do the consuming, we are gonna set breakpoint where we. Okay, let's do this. This is how we set where we send the request to the backend API. So let's set breakpoint here. So in this case, when we have the breakpoints, let's send the request again. So you can see the request a little bit like different between those two three records. The first one we have key. We also have a traceability ID. The second one we have key, but we don't have a traceability ID. The third one we don't have key and we don't have traceability ID. So those three records actually, during the transformation in the backend API, they treat those three records differently. First, like only the records with key, we're going to reproduce back to the Kafka topic, the transform topic. Also, if there's no traceability ID, if there's a traceability ID, we're going to use this traceability ID for the new records and audit entry. And if there's no traceability ID, we're going to pick up this account number as traceability ID. For this one, because there are no keys, so it only like say, oh, we successfully process this record, but it won't send this record back to the Kafka topic. So let's do this. Send again. You can see immediately, like in the producer handler, we stop here. So this is we can say, let's go. Once this is done, you can see we produce the record into the Kafka, and the sidecar starts consuming the message. And once the consuming is done, is basically send the message to the backend. At this moment, there is no information on the backend yet. So let's create a breakpoint here in the backend so that we know like when the backend going to receive the request. So let's move this. Let's go. That's the first record. That's the second. So now you can see in the backend, this is the backend, we receive the request. So the backend is going to do the processing for each record, output all the information, and also start doing the transformation. Let's just walk this through. You can see this is the second record from the Kafka-sidecar. So let's let it go. Third, let it go. Okay. So once we come here, you can see we have three record size. And then we do the processing. Let's see, process. So once we got this done, like you can debug into the detail. Let's say how we produce to the Kafka-sidecar using this JDK client, and how we extract the traceability ID. See if the traceability ID exists, we use that one. Otherwise, we just get from account number. If there's no traceability ID, then we throw exception. So because we need a traceability ID for the tracing end-to-end for a particular business transaction. Also, here we have the transformation, how the transformation is supposed to be done. See, we got the first name, last name, and we concat them together to have a full name. So this value map eventually will be converted into the value and sent back to a new topic. This is the new topic name. It's got target topic name getting from the configuration. So for this application, we have a configuration as well. And you can see everything is embedded. This is the configuration. So you can see we have the key schema version, value schema version, and this is a target topic name, and also this is a sidecar URL for producer. So that's it. That's we can see how this interaction between those two applications within the ID. Let's stop both. And let's take a look at the Kafka topic. Stop. Okay. Let's go to this control center. You can see in the Kafka topic, we can take a look at the source. The source topic is called the original account. And you can see the messages here. Those are the messages like on the source topic. You can see each individual message. What's the value? This is the value. And this is the header. This is the correlation ID we generated, because every time you produce something through the Kafka-sidecar, the correlation ID will be added first, and then all the subsequent transactions will use this correlation ID. So it's never going to be regenerated like for the entire processing, the life cycle of the message. This is the key. It doesn't have a key. So this is the last message. It doesn't have a key, right? The third message. This is the one. We have a value. We have a header. We have a key. This key is 2. And this is another message. We should have value, header. But this one, you see this first message, we have this traceability ID is 1. So we basically produce this into the Kafka record in the header. And this is the key. So those are the records we produced to the original topic. When we look at another topic, we can see the transformed account. So let's take a look at this topic. This is the last records. You can see we have full name, which is John Doe concatenated together. This is the number 2. This is the account number 2. And you can see we have traceability ID 2. Previously, traceability ID only in the first record. Now we have 2. That means this is the second record, basically. And this is the same correlation ID. The key will be 2 as well. And if you take a look at this is the first record. And we have header, both traceability ID, correlation ID, and we also have key. You cannot see the third record in this topic. You can see this is another record too, because third record, because it doesn't have a key, so it won't be reproduced. Because there's a logic like in the backend API. Also, let's take a look at the audit. When we do the producing or consuming, like we are writing the information into audit. So there is an audit table. It's called sidecar audit as a default name, but this is configurable. You can always configure this with different names. So within this audit, you can see the records here. Let's take a look at the records. Yeah, because you see we generated much more audit entry than the message itself. This is audit entry, UUID, and the service ID, which service generates audit, and what's the audit type. This is reactive consumer. This is topic is original account, partition, offsite, the correlation ID, traceability ID. Those two are very important, like if they link all different transactions together. All different activities within the same transaction, like life cycle of the message together. This is the key, this is the status. It's successful. And this is the key for the audit, which is UUID. You can see other audit messages. This is a producer. So all of them, like you have audit entries. So we can link everything together to trace a message from the beginning to the end, how the application is processing. Not just like a same service, it might be multiple services, like the message pass through within those services. They all should have a trail, like to see how the message is processed by each service. So this is the one. Also, we might have some, if we look at this original account DLQ, this is the dialector queue or dialector topic. So let's see, we have 4 messages here. Those are dialectors. Sometime when we do the processing, if it's not processed successfully, it goes here. So there's some issue like during the processing. Like this is not the one I just demoed. It's previously I manually triggered the dead letter. For example, set breakpoint, manually make it timeout. So you can see some of the messages goes to this dead letter queue. So the message goes to dead letter topic or dead letter queue. It can be replayed from the light portal control plane too. So this is the topics. So now we finished the IDE and we walked the topics. Let's start the both servers like in the Docker Compose so that we can see how the sidecar is supposed to be working side by side between the Kafka-sidecar and the backend API. Let's take a look at this this folder. So I have this light example for the checkout already. So if you are now check this out, you need to check this out. Kafka sidecar reactive consumer producer. So here we have the Docker Compose file. Like I can just Docker Compose up. So once I do this, you can see we start both Kafka-sidecar and the backend API together. So you see we have two services like, yeah, so this is the Kafka backend, this is the Kafka-sidecar. So once we got those started, let's do this. We set a break here so that we can see the activities here if we do the reproducing again. So I send another request to produce another 3 records. So you can see we have 24, 25, 26. Now let's go to the Docker Compose. You can see Docker Compose will generate this log from the beginning to the end. And from here, it's easy. You can see the interaction between the Kafka-sidecar and the backend. They are not in sequence. Say, we do the producing to the Kafka-sidecar. Once the Kafka-sidecar got all the produced records, not necessarily wait all the records produced. It start to do the consumption. Once the consumption started, it send the request to the backend. See, this is the backend received the request, the payload for the reactive consumer, and once the backend doing the processing, it start to produce to the Kafka to the Kafka-sidecar again. So see here, it start produce to sidecar. So once the sidecar receive the produced message, it write into the transform the topic, and after that you can see produce transform message to sidecar, blah blah blah. This is another producing. Like say, it's multiple times we do the producing. There's basically 2 records, and this is how the when we got everything done, it say everything is completed. So this is the entire transaction is completed. So now you can see we can start like both containers in the same Docker Compose. If you are using like a Kubernetes cluster, you can deploy both in a pod so that the sidecar will handle all the interactions with Kafka, and also give you the capability to address all cross-cutting concerns when you are dealing with messages. Yeah, for all the documentation, you can check the reference documentation in the tutorial. That's it. Thank you. Bye bye.